Okay, we are officially live, and we are joined by a dear good friend of mine, and a guy that's been on the show in the past, Reagan Griffin Jr. Last time he was on the show, we chopped it up, talked some NBA basketball, and we talked about some Philadelphia Eagles football. So, Reagan, how you doing today, man?
I'm great, man. Another day in paradise.
For sure. So, you've kind of been doing some great things on the Reagan Griffin Jr. show. So, guys, be sure to check him out on podcasting platforms. He's also on YouTube. Just type in the Reagan Griffin Jr. show. On YouTube, he just recently did a Trey Jones breakdown. He kind of broke down some film on Trey Jones and talked about how he feels about Trey Jones as an NBA prospect. So, Reagan, kind of talk about some things that you've been doing on the Reagan Griffin Jr. show as of late. I know you had Rob Parker on recently. You kind of gave him the smoke a little bit with that debate about Steph Curry. So talk about the things you've been doing on your show and, just plug in any other information right about now.
Yeah, man. Like you really pretty much covered it all. Go check that out. The Reagan Griffin Jr. show. I also do Hoop and Holler. That's a podcast with my friends. It's kind of been on hiatus for a little bit with the NBA. Still kind of trying to get their feet wet and get everything back going there. But pretty much cover it all. Go check me out on Twitter at Reagan D. Griffin. Go check me out on Instagram at Reagan_Griffin_II. Yeah, just trying to get on the grind, man. All this time, you got to fill it somehow. So just trying to kind of diversify what I do in terms of podcasting and video making. That video stuff, man, that takes a very, very, very long time to break down film. My goodness. I don't know how dudes like you had Brett Coleman on your podcast, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't know how he does that at the frequency that he puts stuff out. That is beyond me, man. Because that's like a weeks-long process.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go into, breaking down film. You have to, it's a lot of editing. It takes a lot of time, but I think it's pretty worth it. I appreciate you guys that watch my NFL breakdowns and things of that nature. I'm going to have a Daniel Jones film analysis video out for you guys pretty soon on here. We'll talk about some other quarterbacks as far as film analysis go pretty soon. But today we're talking everything NBA basketball. Not necessarily everything, but we got a couple good topics for you guys today. I want to first start off talking about the Raptors right here because I've been recently doing a lot of episodes on NBA teams, and the Raptors was not one of the teams I covered. Obviously the defending, NBA Finals champions, Toronto Raptors. Now there is no more Kawhi Leonard on this team, but I gotta tell you, man, this Raptors team is pretty underrated. Everyone talks about the Clippers, the Lakers, the Bucks, the Rockets, and the Celtics. I don't hear many people talk about the Raptors. Pascal Siakam has taken a big leap as far as his development as a player. Averaging 23.6 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 3.6 assists. And, I understand that losing Kawhi Leonard, one of the three best players in all of basketball, is definitely a huge loss. But when we look at things last year, the Raptors, outside of Kawhi Leonard, they ran about 7 to 8 players deep. It was always Kawhi Leonard and then obviously Pascal Siakam and then just someone else stepping up each night. They're great defensively. They got size. They got some veteran players. They've been there and done that before. And, you talk about Lowry, Ibaka, Van Vliet, Powell. They got a pretty good squad. So, Reagan, I want to kind of start this conversation off by you evaluating the Raptors, as a team right now. Where would you rank them among the teams in the Eastern Conference? And what do you think this team's ceiling is overall?
I would put them tied for second with the Miami Heat. And we'll get to that later on in the show. And I agree with you that I do think Toronto is one of the less talked about teams. And whether that should be the case or not, that's up for discussion. But I do think that when we talk about the teams that could potentially come out of the East, the Raptors have to be in that conversation. My one hang-up with that team, and you talked about the depth that they had last year, and that a lot of what's on that team right now is the same team that was on the team last year. But you don't have Kawhi Leonard, and I do think the whole narrative that Kawhi Leonard carried that Raptors team, that's a little bit overplayed. That team was a product of a lot of good players playing their roles exceptionally well. Kawhi Leonard was just the kind of focal point of everything that was going on. But with the absence of Kawhi Leonard, the main part where I get worried about is those big moments, the last 2 minutes of the game. You need players to come up with buckets in isolation situations. I'm not sure if there's anyone on that Raptors team that's equipped to handle those moments. I like Pascal Siakam. I'm not sure if I trust him in those moments. I darn sure don't trust Kyle Lowry at this particular juncture in this moment. So I'm not sure who they hand the ball to down the stretch. I know the Bucks have Chris Middleton. I'm fairly confident in his ability. I know Miami Heat, they have Jimmy Butler. I know the 76ers, that's a little bit of a give and take. You could say Tobias Harris is up there. But, when I look to that Raptors team, man, I'm not sure who you hand the ball to in those moments, and that's the biggest thing that concerns me.
Yeah, I tend to agree with most of the things you said right there. We talk about how Kawhi Leonard, was the guy that put the Raptors over the hump, and he definitely was that guy. But we also have to look at the fact that the year before, they were the number one, seed in the Eastern Conference. And I know DeMar DeRozan, kind of gets a little bit of unfair criticism at times, but, Kawhi Leonard is definitely a better player than him. But that team was very good, from the start. You just need a guy in Kawhi Leonard that can take you over the top, a guy that's been there, and just overall a better two-way player, And listen, I tend to agree with you. I think that ultimately the fact that you do lose Kawhi Leonard is going to be this team's downfall, because Kawhi Leonard, as far as, getting stops on defense and getting buckets on the other end, I mean, that's arguably the best guy in basketball as far as, being a two-way player and things of that nature. But, I mean, I like this team a lot. I think that Nick Nurse is a very good head coach. They've got a lot of depth. The only concern is, you look at Boston, Milwaukee. Boston has Jason Tatum, who's taking a big step this year. I trust him a little bit more at this point in his career than Pascal Siakam. I trust, Giannis, even though I have some questions about Giannis. So we'll get to Miami, pretty shortly right here. I know you're pretty high on Miami. But I would rank the Celtics and the Bucks over the Raptors as of right now, simply because I think they have a little more star power. And I just think that ultimately the loss of Kawhi Leonard is going to, it's not going to allow the Raptors to get over the hump. So I agree with you. The Raptors are definitely a team that can contend, and they're definitely in the championship picture, in my opinion. I would probably say the ceiling for them is the Eastern Conference Finals. I just don't quite see them getting to the NBA Finals. I think they match up well with Milwaukee and Boston, but ultimately I think that either Boston or Milwaukee is the team that probably comes out of the East, in my opinion. You have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, man, I mean, you pretty much just said it all. It's just a matter of, and we knew the Raptors were that team that would be amongst the top of the Eastern Conference in the regular season, but we always knew come playoff time, they just didn't have the firepower that could take them over the hump. DeMar DeRozan and the Kyle Lowry, they couldn't get it done. Kawhi Leonard, he was the player in that upper echelon tier of basketball players that you needed to get it done. Without him, I just don't know, man. I just don't know. It would take some serious stepping up from a guy like Pascal Siakam. Again, I don't see it from Kyle Lowry. We've never seen it from Kyle Lowry. The best we've seen Kyle Lowry play in the playoffs was in that second tier to Kawhi Leonard. So I'm not sure if anyone on that team is just equipped to handle that role of being the number one guy down the stretch.
Yep, I'm going to have to agree right there. Thank you so much for watching this video today. Please also note that the Juice Alert Sports Podcast is not just a YouTube channel. It is available on all podcasting platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this content with all your friends. This podcast is my favorite thing in the entire world right now. It is my passion. And I want more people to listen to this podcast. I really want this podcast to grow. Also, a fun fact about me is that I want to go into the sports broadcasting and media world once I graduate from the University of Toledo, a college in Northern Ohio. I currently am a freshman there right now. I am looking to become one of the next great sports broadcasters and analysts out in the world. And I potentially would like to start my own network if this podcast really truly grows. Or if I fall short of that goal, I would love to work for a big time network like ESPN or Fox Sports 1. I am open to all networks. So if you believe in my dreams and you see or hear my passion through the screen, be sure to tell all your friends about the Juice Alert Sports Podcast. Stay motivated, you guys. Have a God bless day, and I'm out.